So much for coming out to Book Culture to see Meena, Fauza, Yvette, Sarah, and Michael. A few logistical things. We have some books up here. We don't have registers up here though, so feel free to take them, look at them, get them signed, but make sure to pay for them on your way out. And we have some water, we have some wine up here, we have a bathroom in the back, and if anybody has any questions, please let me know. I'll turn it over to them.
Thank you. Can you all hear me? Do I need to stand up?
There's a mic here.
Oh, we don't need a mic, do we? Can you hear me, Ben? No, you can't.
No, I can give you another one as well. We've got two over here. Yeah, let's put the batteries in this one.
I was going to say that my name is Amitav Ghosh, but I thought I could get away with it with my hair.
Amitav had a family emergency.
Right.
So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do I do something?
Nope, it's all set.
Okay, thank you. Does this work? No.
I'll turn it over.
Does this work?
No.
It's coming through here, right?
Okay.
I'll turn it over.
No.
Okay, I have a strong suspicion that everybody here actually knows Meena and probably knows her quite well. But for maybe that one or two people who don't, let me introduce her. So Meena Alexander is a poet, novelist, scholar, and teacher. She was born in India, and at the tender age of 5, she relocated with her parents to the Sudan. Spending her formative years there, she read for her first degree at the University of Khartoum, and then relocated again, continuing her studies in Britain. She's the only person I know to have earned her doctorate at the age of 21. Moving back and forth within her circuit of the Indian Ocean as a young adult, Meena finally settled in the United States, where she has worked and lived with her husband and 2 children ever since. I should note that here, Meena also achieved the status of distinguished professor at an unusually young age for such honors. Meena has exhaustively documented in one way or another the extraordinary richness of her vast geographic, linguistic, and cultural immersions and migrations. 2 novels, 8 books of poetry, and 4 chapbooks, 2 edited anthologies, 1 memoir, and 3 scholarly studies. So it's not surprising, really, that we're gathered here this evening to launch not 1, but 2 new books by Meena Alexander, the volume of poetry, Atmospheric Embroidery, and the anthology, Name Me a Word, Indian Writers Reflect on Writing. So I'm joined this evening by Yvette Christianse, Michael Angelo Romore, and Sarah Denise Akant. Yvette is the Anne Whitney Olin Chair of Africana Studies at Barnard College, and she too is a poet, scholar, and librettist. She's chair of the Africana Studies Department and a professor of both English literature and Africana Studies. She is interim chair of Barnard's Council for Diversity and Inclusion and a 2018 Atlantic Fellow of Racial Equity. She's a founding member of the Oceanic Humanities for the Global South Initiative at the University of Witwatersrand. Her books include Toni Morrison and Ethical Poetics, a novel, Unconfessed, and 2 volumes of poetry, Castaway and Imprenda Horror. Michael Angelo Romore is a doctoral candidate in English at the Graduate Center, CUNY. His in-progress dissertation, Blackwater, Race and the Human Project in the Indian Ocean Imagination, focuses on writing that depicts the Indian Ocean as a site for narrating globalization and the emergence of modern race. His writing has appeared in venues such as Social Text Online, Studies in the Fantastic, and Guernica. In addition, he teaches literature and writing courses at LaGuardia Community College, Lehman College, and Queen's College, CUNY. You are busy. And Sarah Denise Akant is a Brooklyn-based educator, poet, and performer. She is the author of Babette, 2015, Parades, 2014, and Latronic Strag, 2015. Her work has appeared most recently in Maxine Paperbag and at the Poetry Foundation. She too is getting a PhD in English at the CUNY Grad Centre, teaches writing at Hunter College and runs the GC Poetics Group with friends. So between us, we'll be in conversation with Meena, as well as offering readings and responses to her work. So first, let me thank you, Meena, for bringing us all together and for the continuing generosity of your time and spirit. So perhaps we can begin with Michael, and followed by Sarah, and then Yvette and I will kick in after that. So please, Michael. Here we go.
It's okay if I sit. Thank you. I wanted to say a few words about the amazing poem cycle that runs through can you hear me? Sorry. Atmospheric Embroidery, Indian Ocean Blues. So Meena often speaks of celebrating her 5th birthday, crossing the Indian Ocean in the shadow of the Bandung Conference, that monument to both post-colonial striving and the unfulfilled grand schemes. This simultaneous longing and loss, these are Meena's words, of post-colonial experience permeates atmospheric embroidery, as it does all of Meena's work. Reflecting on the text, I was brought back to the opening words of 1996's The Shock of Arrival, and so I just wanted to quote this. The shock of arrival is multifold. What was born in the mind is jarred, tossed into new shapes, an exciting exfoliation of sense. What we were in that other life is shattered open, but the worlds we now inhabit still speak of the need for invention, of ancestors, of faith. In a time of literally explosive possibilities, we must figure out how to live our lives. If the earlier work explores the quote-unquote shock of arrival, atmospheric embroidery focuses on the shock of passage itself, which Meena's called elsewhere the phenomenology of passage. This focus on the sensuousness of the act of migration is apparent in how that original oceanic crossing figures in the epic poem cycle Indian Ocean Blues, which runs through atmospheric embroidery, and on the back of the book it's described as the heart of the text. And I found this such an apt description because in the text these oceanic circulations double for the circulations of bodies and embodiment. Meena begins one poem in this cycle. You find this hard to believe. I'm a creature of house and home, bound by a cord of blood, unseen umbilicus that tethered me, even as the ocean swept on and on. Indian Ocean Blues follows this long line of imaginative works that depict oceanic crossings from the perspective of embodied memory and motion. Meena prefaces Indian Ocean Blues with an epigraph from Amy Césaire's classic Negritude poem, Notebook of a Return to the Native Land, a document of the pain and exhilaration of an impossible homecoming. Indian Ocean Blues also evokes Amitav Ghosh's epic In an Antique Land, in which the reconstructed memory of radically cosmopolitan oceanic connections contrasts with the rigid identifications of present coloniality. In Indian Ocean Blues, cosmopolitanism and embodiment are intermingled in the oceanic passage itself. I'm reminded of a few lines from the poem Shook Silver. Our boat is bound for Africa. They have goats and cows just like us, also snakes that curl under the frangipani tree. Remember what grandmother said? If you don't keep that parasol over your head, you'll turn into a little black girl. A childhood scene in which utopian recognition and the genesis of difference uncomfortably intermingle. Here as elsewhere, in Meena's words, one sea leads to another. In other words, one oceanic crossing echoes others, the Indian Ocean, Bombay to Sudan, the Atlantic world linked at the hub of Washington Heights, and Inwood Cedar, reflecting on Phyllis Wheatley's address to General Washington, quote, the way he wished to be addressed, unquote, all acts of translation. And as Meena writes, we're leaving one language for the other, always and ever. What crossing enjoins? The titular blues figures as another shared language of longing. Musical titles such as fermata and syncopation reflect on the multiple temporalities of post-colonial experience, but also of migration as both extension and circumscription.